So, hi guys, welcome to HUGS Dose, the feel-good show where we serve you dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So, today's discussion is on suicide. With me are some amazing youth leaders, so I'll let them introduce themselves and then we can get on.
Hey guys, my name is Noreen Kaguya, but they call me Nora. I am Nairobi County's Scout Youth Leader.
Hello guys, my name is Marco Hapius. I'm a counseling psychologist and the chairperson and co-founder of Psychology for Better Living, a society of young psychologists and counselors. Happen also to be the lead psychologist for Scouts Healing Invisible Wounds. It's a mental health initiative under the Scouting movement in Kenya. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Ian Vitata. I'm a board member of HUGS organization.
So, welcome to the show. So, this month, September, is Suicide Awareness Month, right? And in respect to that, I'd like us to discuss suicide awareness and prevention measures. So, before we start, I'd like us to talk about the statistics of suicide worldwide and here in Kenya.
Okay, so worldwide, it is recorded that averagely per year, people who die of suicide are 800,000. And then in Kenya, we'd say 327. When you compare both statistics worldwide and locally, it is noted that men commit a lot more suicide than ladies, and I believe that is going to be part of our discussion today.
True.
Yeah.
And when you said men commit, suicide more than women, nimeona Pius amefanya kitu na uso. Why did you react to the term commit?
Commit. I was still wondering, was it like committing because they like it or they commit because they don't like it? But anyway, that is beside the point. When we say committed or commit, we kind of criminalize the act. So, but when you look at it professionally or when you look at it scientifically, these persons who end their life through suicide, it's not that they wished to end their life, but it's because of what is happening that is beyond their control. So, in our profession, we advise or we recommend use of died by suicide instead of committed suicide. Every time we say committed suicide, remember we are criminalizing the act.
Mm-hmm. And to add to that, we don't say someone committed cancer, we say they died of cancer. So that's why we're really trying to change the whole narrative around suicide, because one thing for sure is there's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to suicide, and given the terms that we use when we talk about suicide and everything, plays a huge role in regards to stigmatizing or demystifying the whole subject. So speaking of stigmas, I want us to mention some of the stigmas that you guys have heard in regards to suicide. What do people out there say? What do people believe in when it comes to suicide? What are the myths and what are the facts when it comes to suicide?
Maybe I'll go first. And some of the myths that are there in regards to suicide includes, there are people who believe that people who come out to share their stories around them being suicidal or their stories, struggling with the suicidal ideation and thoughts, they term them as people who are attention seekers. They assume that these people are just seeking the attention of other people. That is not true. People who are suicidal or people who are going through suicidal ideations and all those things, they are not seeking attention. They are seeking your help. They are seeking my help. So we need to be there to assist them, to help them, overcome whatever they are going through. So they are not attention seekers.
On that point, I have a question. Lately, suicide has been, it has been on an increase. And don't you feel that it is, well, some people, it is, they get there because of unavoidable circumstances. But have you ever met somebody who does this because my friend did that and it looked cool because, you know, everybody gave her all that attention and now I want it all to myself? Have you ever met such a person?
I think it's possible.
In the realm of narcissistic tendencies, like you find some people who are, like there are some who are narcissists for attention, so they can take like exaggerated steps to kind of draw attention to themselves. But I don't think, let's say, for those who suffer from those suicidal ideations and from severe depression, that there would be a situation in which they're trying to get attention. Because if they have serious mental issues, it's accompanied by symptoms, of course. And, you know, once you get proper medical help, you'll be able to spot. You'll be able to spot something which is authentic as opposed to something which is faked. That's my own opinion on that.
Okay. Please, do you have a comment on it?
Yes, maybe I'll just also want to respond to your question, and I'll say, yes, it's true. And this comes back to the media, how we report our cases on suicide. If our media stations continue, reporting cases on suicide every time and giving them details, the general public, the details of how these people ended their life, then there are those people in the community who are still struggling, but they have not yet figured it out how to end their life. So it means this is going to be like a trigger, one. Two, this is going to be like it's going to give them an idea of what to do. So if someone died by this particular method and you are airing it on television, and there is someone else who is struggling with suicide or suicide ideation, it means you are giving this person who is struggling an idea of what to do next. So there's that kind of pressure and even, suggestions that we give to those people who are suffering. So that is my thoughts.
But to come back to that thing of it's attention seeking, and some people actually do it for seeking attention. The actual facts about suicide is the two main leading causes of suicide is isolation and feeling like a burden. Now think of it this way: if I'm battling suicidal ideations due to feeling like a burden, or that isolation bit of it, then it means I will struggle with it first before I actually come out and share it. And the minute I'm sharing it, then it means I'm at my breaking point. You get? It means like imenifika hiyo point ya I actually want to share it. So it means I've been struggling with it for quite a while. So I'm not doing it for the attention. I'm actually doing it because I felt this, I can't go on anymore. You get? So the minute you understand that, then you'll realize most of it is not attention seeking. And I would want you to, anyone who says they're suicidal, I'd want you to take it serious. Do not go with ama ana seek attention or what, because the minute we start giving into those type of thoughts of ama are they just trying to seek attention and everything, then we won't offer the actual help that we're supposed to do. So always take it as a serious thing, whether they're joking or not. Just take it as something serious and someone that actually needs immediate help. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Yes. And now, speaking of which, I'd also want us to talk about the rates in terms, like when you were giving us the statistics earlier on before we started, you were telling us about how men end up dying of suicide more as compared to women. And do you think there's a reason to that?
Yeah.
I want to hear this from the men. Why do you think men are the majority that die of suicide as opposed to women?
I think the first thing is we seek to hold things within ourselves. We don't seek to share there's still that culture of you got to be a strong man. Yeah? I think also, we've moved away from those times where, because being strong is those kind of cultural stereotypes that we have to live up to and whatnot. They don't hold up today. I think today the kind of skills that you need in order to live maybe a mentally healthy life, maybe devoid, if that's a word, of like going through maybe a deep depression that can lead to suicide is something where you have to make connections. You have to be open about the problems that you're facing. Because we live in an age where there's increasingly so much information that clashes against our our cultural and habitual state of living, that it challenges how we live each and every day. I think on that end, maybe yes, you can go into depth about the psychological aspects of it, because I think mine is more of like a general.
I think I'll give my opinion as a man. We've been asked to give our opinions as men. Now, this will be my opinion as a man. I feel like we as men, we are more exposed to lethal methods of ending our lives as compared to ladies. We have more access to guns. We have more access to these, crude weapons as compared to ladies. So it means the moment I'm contemplating of suicide, it is easier for me to end it, than a woman who will think of less lethal, weapons or means of ending her life, right? Then the other thing is, I would say about us is that there is already that stigma, what my colleague was speaking about. The society does not accept us. If we come out to share our stories that we are suffering, even these ladies, they won't accept us. They will see us as weak people, weak men, So that is a stigma on our side. So we end up just dying from inside, and we can't even go to our fellow men because even for them, they have their own issues. So it's all it is complicated. But I think with such like conversations, we are trying to change the narrative day by day. So, we can even start by having men support group, boys support group. That's how we change the conversation moving forward.
Mm-hmm. But have you ever met the men themselves? They are the first to give us that impression that we're strong, gangster points. Like, menisalimie brother hivyo. Like, they are the first to give us, no, I'm a man, I can't do this, I can't do this.
I'm a macho man.
Yeah, so I think you guys, when you go to those groups, you need to tell yourselves it's okay. It's okay to have men's night and not just play PS, be like
and
us
drink.
girls. Yeah.
But just a quick question. How much of this does evolution play? Let's talk about the genetic aspect. Because back in the day, I'm pretty sure we all know about how men, that specific gender roles which have been passed down for as long as maybe humankind has existed. So how much of that is maybe a genetic contribution to how we habitually operate?
Let me. It's funny when we talk about emotions, we correlate it to weakness, right? What don't you think you not being in touch or you not being aware of your emotions is the actual issue? It's not a matter of being strong or weak. It's just a matter of you being self-aware enough to know at this point I can't take it anymore, and you open up about it. So it doesn't correlate to weakness or strength. It simply talks about you being in touch of emotions, you having that emotional intelligence and that self-awareness to know I cannot go past this is my breaking point and everything. And I don't know at what point ilifika whereby we started now correlating that with weakness, because like I don't see it, because every time you are really, when you mention, every time you're talking about it, you're talking about weakness, tutaonekana tuko weak and everything, and it's not a matter of strength or weakness. We're talking about emotions here, right? So at what point did it get that when you talk about your emotions, you're becoming weak? That's what I want us to get.
I think they are both related, like what you said and what you said. It is, when you look at the older generation, weirdly, they didn't have a lot more of these suicidal cases, and they were the most toxic. And then right now, this new generation, which actually opens up. Now you find the older generation are like,
This
new
new
vibes
generation,
are now squeezy. What is this you're doing? Like in our times, we would do this. I would get out of my father's house and do this. So I feel like the older generation plays a big part in associating emotions and opening up to weakness. Because during their times, things were different. Maybe the way of life was different. And then right now, the way of life is very, very different. And these guys of this generation are just adapting to it. The way Pius, his age gap is different from my young nephews. My young nephew will grow up to see a lot more. He will get a lot more exposure than Pius got. And instead of Pius guiding him, he'll just be like, oh, you're a weakling, wewe kazi yako ni. So I feel like the older generation should take part in these conversations and understand that times are changing. Yeah.
Nimeona umeitisha mic. Yes.
Nilipewa tu. So for me, I'll say we can't really ascertain that the older generation didn't have issues to do with suicide. We are not sure because we don't have data. Even right now, as a country, we are still struggling with data in regards to suicidal deaths. So we are not very sure. But what I'm very sure is that when you compare those olden days and the current days, there's a bit of structure and activities that used to keep we, the young people, in check. When you've heard of the age sets and age groups, you've heard of the grandmothers, grandfathers, making stories with their children, around the fire and what have you. This is like social support. Look at us today. When was the last time you went to visit your grandmother? When was the last time you talked to your grandmother? When was the last time you had that buddy group, like in the name, the equivalent of the age sets? Then these things, they have gone away. We are now modern. And in modernity, we are like, it's me and me alone. It's about me and my laptop, me and my phone, me and my internet. You see, we are breaking that social interaction. That is what is bringing out some of these issues. But on the issue of emotions, yes, emotions are not a sign of weakness. But in history, emotions have been more related with women. Yes, when you look around, most of us, I know emotion is it's a human thing. It's human for one to be emotional. But in our society today, we look at emotion as a female, thing.
I wonder why.
That is the problem, and that's why we are here. So it will happen. That's why if as a man I come out being emotional, they'll start, tagging me some female terms like, you're acting in a woman way, or what we call umama, those things. And why are they calling you mama or referring to you as a woman? Because even still in that society, we view women as weak. We view women as weaker species. So as a woman, with the egos that we have, definitely, we will not want to be referred as women. And when you are referred as a woman, in short, someone is referred to you as a weak person, and that is a challenge. So we'll try to mask everything that we are going through, and that is the reason why we are having more men dying of suicide than women, because women will come out and share. Women will allow themselves to be emotional, they will cry, but for us men, When was the last time you cried? I can't remember myself. You see?
Maybe funerals. Maybe funerals.
But you see, that's the problem. You see, you can actually have a cry date for you alone without your friend knowing you are crying. But then again, like you said, you're scared of seeing another man or other people see you or term you as weak. But what is stopping you from crying alone in your room? Because hakuna mtu anakuona. So you see, at the end of the day, it's not about what other people are saying. It's more about what you men believe in. Because
I also feel it is important for them to talk about it. You know, like as ladies, once something happens to me, I'll go to my friend Irene and I'll really vent out to her, you know this happened, and I've let it all out, and when I come back home, I'm ready to take. But you see, even when they cry and it is still inside them, they're not talking about it, it will still...
Yes, but now see, he's not crying and he's not talking about it. How much pressure is that on them? What I'm saying is start small. You can start with yourself, you know, like be vulnerable with yourself first. Because personally, I believe whatever issues you have or how you think the world is how you yourself is viewing it. For instance, if you have self-esteem and everything and you think watu watanifikiria hivi na hivi, high chances are wewe mwenyewe ndio unajifikiria hivyo, because hao watu hata hawa notice whatever it is that you think they're noticing. So how about you men start kidogo pole pole with yourself, right? Call yourself on a cry date, you know, wash a candles, cry. I'm going overboard. Relax, I'm going overboard. I'm just joking. But what I'm trying to say is start it with you. Be vulnerable with yourself. Then baby steps, go to the next person who you can trust. Because another thing I know is most of the time people find it hard to share with people they know. Why? Because they'll feel like they are judged or something. And that's why it's so easy for you to open up to a stranger than it is for you to open up to someone close to you. So also look inside your circle. You know, are these people I can trust? Are these people that will add to my issues? You get what I'm trying to say? Yes, you had something to say, sorry.
So I just want to touch on one aspect of our human brain, right? Because the human brain of males and females is different. And you counter me if I'm incorrect. But, and maybe the biology. So on one end, like I had spoken about the evolutionary aspect of where we've come from, how we've evolved over time. And, you know, back in the day, our brains were wired in a way where, you know, we get a few sticks and some spears, we hunt something, you know, you go and you chop at that animal, you take it. If you see a lion coming, whatever, you don't have time to think, you just run. So our brains are wired in a way where we like convenience, a bit of predictability. When there's unpredictability, we run away. In this case today, when there's unpredictability, let's say we talk about the economic situation, it may cause somebody to be depressed or maybe become suicidal. Or maybe a family member gets lost. You become a bit depressed, possibly suicidal. It depends on the connection that you had with that person. Then the way the brain processes that can be, it depends on how each person is, yeah. But I feel like in some cases where we have problems which we can't throw a stone at or we can't throw a stick at, we have to think through them and maybe discuss with different people. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for, I think, both sexes, right? Or both genders, especially maybe for men. Let's say they have to deal with a situation where, I don't know, maybe for some men they've taken their salaries and wameweka sport pesa. For sport pesa, they've lost it, and then they become seriously depressed the next couple of days. And just to bring in that aspect of like also the system that we live in today, because we have moved away effectively from running away from lions and cheetahs and maybe rowing a boat faster for some of us, not all of us, But for a substantial amount of humanity which is living in urban areas, urban challenges are different from the challenges that you'll be facing, let's say, in the wild.
Now, because we were still on the stereotype, I'd like to maybe to open the floor again for another kind of stereotype that or myths I hear a lot on suicide. There is a lot of negative connotations when it comes to suicide, because most people relate suicide and having suicidal ideations to spiritual issues, you having issues with your maker, you being bewitched, and all those stuffs. So I don't know if maybe, is this true?
Well, I've heard of it. I've heard of it in my community. They say that when you see a person who committed suicide, maybe by hanging, and you are not performed for a certain ritual, chances are that spirit possessed you and you will you'll also commit suicide. Yeah, I've heard of it too.
And is there any truth in it? Do you guys think there's some truth in it? The fact that you not being in sync with your spirituality might lead to, you dying of suicide or having suicidal ideations?
I'd say it comes down to what you believe in. What you believe in, you set your mind to believe in that. So the moment you've come, your aunties have told you, oh, you've done this and you didn't do this. Now, I'm telling you. So maybe the smallest inconvenience that happens in your life, you'll blame it on that fact because you believe I didn't perform this ritual, so I'm just going to be suicidal at some point. So everything, you've set your mind to it, definitely everything you'll be associating it to that. And at the end of the day, you find yourself like, okay, so I was just doomed to commit suicide. But there is no truth in it. It just comes down to your power of belief.
I actually think that it's about time we started being serious as Africa, I feel like this is mostly in Africa. I know in the outside world it's there too, but I feel like it's about time we started being more serious with certain things that we believe in. Because one, if I died of cancer today, no one will start saying, but they only pata cancer because you were not spiritual, right? I think it's about time we started considering mental health issues, our conditions, as diseases like any other. The same thing with suicide, right? Suicide is an actual, condition. It's a disease. Hakuna mtu ataamka siku moja aseme when they're okay and everything, aseme okay fine, mimi nimechoka. You get it means that there's something that has driven them there. Either other issues like depression and other issues combined, or just depression or something else. You get, so the minute we start seeing it as a disease and not as spiritual conditions and everything, because I swear I've never heard someone say someone died of diabetes or they died through an accident because they were not spiritual.
But they find reasons to blame it on the spiritual.
And that's what I'm saying. When it comes, I feel like the reason why the mental health topic is so much related to spirituality and superstitions and whatnot is one, most people don't understand the conditions that people go through. And I feel like people fear what they don't understand, and because they fear whatever it is that they don't understand, they start making up stories. The same thing with religion, right? I don't understand Hinduism, but I've heard of certain stories that are against it, right? People who don't understand Islam, they fear it and then start making up stories about it. So I feel like it's about time we started educating ourselves in regards to these matters, because our ignorance honestly is showing. And the minute we start doing that, get me right, when you talk about well-being, spirituality is one of the 8 aspects of well-being. What the 8 aspects says is, for you to be well, it means these 8 aspects need to balance. One of the 8 aspects is career, spirituality, finances, family, those. But then again, you find we focus so much on one aspect and neglect the other. right? And that's why you find unaweza pata msee akona job poa, akona a good family, they're getting paid well, but then again they're distressed or they're depressed, right? Spirituality, they're okay, wanaenda church, you know, they have a spiritual community and everything, but then again they're depressed. It means in the 8th dimension, there's a certain aspect that they've neglected or it's not balancing. So it is okay to be spiritual, but at the same time balance it out. And also understand whatever it is that is happening, instead of just, you know, basing it on. So educate yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's about time we started, you know, reading more and, you know, getting facts about certain things, because tunaanza kupotea kidogo.
Yeah, true. And actually, when it comes to religion, most what people say is that when you're suicidal, you've been cast by the gods. So that is like the exact words that most people use. And that is a myth. But we are here to correct that and to share the factual information. Then the last thing maybe about the myths is it's very funny, interesting. Some of us think that when you ask your friend, are you suicidal? He's going to die by suicide. That is a myth, it's a misconception. Actually, if I'm feeling suicidal, you need to ask me, are you suicidal? Do you want to take away your life? What is your plan and what have you? But again, you remember not to go deep, because this is the work of a specialist. But as a friend, you can just ask them. So do not fear. People thinking that if I ask my friend, are you suicidal? Yes, so atenda kujiua. No. That is a misconception. Yes.
But also, I feel like when it comes to how you have these conversations with them, nisikuje tu nikwambie by the way, niko stressed kidogo, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, are you suicidal? I mean, come on, I relate. You get so you need to read the room and know when to ask certain questions and when not to ask certain questions. And also, I feel like this is where also, like when we started speaking, I was talking about emotional intelligence, and 4 aspects of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness, relationship management. Now let's look at social awareness. It means you need to be aware of your surrounding and the people around you. So if I know the kind of person you are, and if you are my friend, it means I know you to a certain extent. I know what will push you, and I know how to engage with certain conversations and so on. So haitafika point nitakuja tu nikupush na maswali if I know you will be kidogo uncomfortable. And if I feel as a friend I cannot have such a conversation with you, I would tell you, by the way, if you are suicidal and you feel like you need help, I can refer you to XYZ. But I feel like nimezunguka mkuti. What I'm trying to say is we need to be socially aware of our surroundings and people around us, so that we can know how to engage certain conversations with them and so on. So at the end of the day, emotional intelligence is a key thing when it comes to this whole conversation around suicide.
Yeah, but there are those exceptional cases whereby you've seen this guy has really posted something on status or social media. They make a comment like they are praising the afterlife, they are praising death, they are praising those who've died. You know, all those manner of things that are a bit unusual. Then you have all the right to ask them if they are feeling suicidal, or if they are feeling like taking away their life. But you also need to be very cautious. I agree with you. Yes.
Understand the person that you're going to. I like the fact that you brought up the ideations, because what you've mentioned is the second stage of suicide. Most people didn't know suicide have stages. Like they thought utakuwa suicidal leo alafu kesho you get, but actual fact is suicide has stages, and the stages are 3. We have the ideation stage, and under the lecture. So we have the ideation stage, and under the ideation stage is whereby it has 2 types of ideations. We have active and passive suicidal ideation. And this is funny because when I talk to people about the passive suicidal ideations, they think, I'm joking, I normally say the passive suicidal ideation, I feel like 98% of the population, do not quote me on that, let me just say majority of the population tumepitia your stage, whereby life imekuwa so hard that you feel, you know what, it would be better off if I'm not around. But then again, that thought comes in passing. It doesn't, hauanzi kufixate on how to do it, or inapita tu. And the minute whatever was stressing you imepita, unakuwa sawa. And then now we have the active suicidal ideation, whereby now you start actually thinking of ways to do it, right? You start now fixating more on it. And like what Pius was saying, you start thinking of, you know, life in death is better than here. You start, you know, focusing more on dark musics that, you know, praise death and whatnot. And now that is now the serious ideation bit, whereby now you need to start getting help. You need to, you know, to refer them to, you know, people who can help them, and so on and so forth. So I like the fact that umelete your part, because it's something that I feel we really don't pay attention to. We really don't consider it in terms of stages. And it's important if we understood those stages, so that we can know what stage am I seeing in a friend, or what stage do I think I'm in. Then you get the help that I need to get. I don't know if you have anything to add on that. Yes.
I have something to add.
In terms of so currently I'm reading a book called The Law of Human Nature by Robert Greene. And there's some stages in which he was talking about why fear has more weight than maybe happiness, or the opposite kind of emotions or feelings. You know, in a way also we tend to like bad news as opposed to good news, right? Mm-hmm. In a way, I feel like even when I was growing up, I go to Sunday school, you know, some of the lessons that we were taught maybe in Christianity is, you know, fear God, because you're going to go to hell if you sin, right? And you get scared because of the devil and stuff like that. So now I want to touch on the belief aspect, whereas you're told those things and it builds this kind of such a fear inside you that you want to conform. That if you follow this kind of way of living, of life, you won't have any problems in life. And I see that it still prevails in Kenyan, the context of Kenyan culture. So in a way, you know, they say, you know, go to church and pray it away, right? And then you find some people that get exploited from that kind of system. Because you can go to a church, they say, okay, so you're having money problems? Come to the church. We'll pray. Tomorrow it will go away.
Let me just cut you short on that. I feel like you can go to church, pray about it, but also I'm pretty sure the same church tells you, as much as you're praying about it, do something about it, work on it, right? I don't feel like there's any religion that only tells you pray about it and just chill and, like, you know, wait for the manna from heaven to come fall and everything. You're told to pray about it and do something about it. I feel like that's the message that almost all religions pass by. But then again, what we do is we forget the do something about it part. Because again, when it comes to mental health, I normally tell all my clients or anyone around me, there's nothing wrong with you having a spiritual belief and also seeking professional help. You can have the spiritual bit, go pray about it and everything, and at the same time seek professional help. So what are you doing? You're using, you know, all the means that are given to you. You're praying about it and you're doing something about it.
I think that's known today. But then again, there's, like, maybe in the past, it was more like, okay, your pastor is the first person you see before you go to your doctor. I'm pretty sure that there was that kind of culture which permeated that time.
Generally, what I would say about it is human beings need to realize how strong their mind is. Your mind is very, very strong. I tell everybody I meet that. And the only things that can conquer you is what you allow. You want to look at religion as a way of, oh, let me just worship this God because Satan is bad. It is you. You allowed it. You allowed it. You are allowing this fear to conquer you. But the moment you set your mind on a positive vibe and you're like, okay, it's a new day. I need to do this. I want to do this. I know I will succeed. I believe I will succeed. I know. It happens.
I agree with that. But then you see, let's talk about kids who've been raised. Because a kid doesn't have a sense of self. Let's say maybe from 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, going onwards, if they haven't developed an ego, the way they are raised is based on beatings and fear continuously, maybe even in the 844 system and stuff like that. It's like we're producing that kind of environment. You get? Especially for the youth. We're continuing a culture of conformity and submission and fear.
Let me say something. I like the fact that both of you have brought something that I was about to bring up on, as we continue the conversation. Core beliefs, right? I don't know if Pius, let me just explain what core beliefs are. So what core beliefs are, I normally define them in layman's term as the glasses we use to view life, right? So how we view life is driven from our experiences in life, right? So these core beliefs, you can learn them from your childhood. You don't learn them by actually being taught, remember, this is what you should believe in. You can learn them by observing, right? Things that your parents did, things that people close to you did, and so on and so forth, right? Moving forward, they can also be learned through experiences in life. So, nimetoka kutoka 5 years, 4, 10, whatever. Now I'm an adult in university and whatnot. What experiences have I gone through in life that has changed my worldview, that has changed my core belief? You get? So at the end of the day, because I realize most of the time when you talk about traumatic experiences, when you talk about issues in our lives, we really like taking them all the way back to our parents, my parents. But you're an adult now. The fact that you understand it came from there, then why are you not doing something about it? And that's why you hear people saying you need to unlearn certain things, you need to relearn the good traits, and you need to learn new ones, right? So what core beliefs does is it gives us, think of it as a tree. So core beliefs are the roots, right? So the stem are the assumptions and rules that we formulate for ourselves, right? Why we formulate these rules and assumptions from what experiences we've had. Say I dated a Meru guy that I like using Merus because I'm a Meru. I dated Isiambwe. I dated a Meru guy that was maybe had anger issues, right? Through that, I formulate a certain core belief that maybe all Meru men work on anger issues. What do? I formulate that same assumption. All Meru men have anger issues. And then I formulate a rule for myself. I'm never going to date a Meru guy. So what does that do? It now changes my whole behavior and, believe around this particular community. And the same thing is what happens when it comes to also suicidal ideations. All these myths that you're saying are things that we've been conditioned by throughout our life. These are things we've had over and over that it may stick kwa akili yetu as a core belief. The same thing with this thing of men when they share their emotions, they're weak and whatnot. That's actually a very negative core belief that we have. And then now we come up the tree, whereby now we talk about the cognitive triangle, whereby your thought affects your feelings affect your behavior. Like she was saying, positive vibes. If I'm thinking negative vibes, then I'll most definitely have a negative feeling towards whatever vibe I'm having. And how will I do it? How will I behave towards it in a negative way? I don't know if that makes sense. So it means for you to change all that, you first of all, again, back to self-awareness. Be self-aware enough to know what your core belief is. How is this core belief affecting my usual thoughts and how these thoughts affecting my emotions and how they affecting my behavior. So I feel like at the end of the day, si wote, we have a huge assignment to always call ourselves kwako kamkutano and ask yourself, why are you the way you are? Why do you believe in certain things that you believe in? What can you change? What can you work better on? And so on and so forth. Yes? Yes.
You want to respond?
So just maybe to touch on that skill, I think there are not that many people who have the skill of empathy. We're sympathetic when something happens, but empathy is a skill which is critical to emotional intelligence. The ability for you to understand the feelings of others. So there was a famous doctor called Milton Erickson. I think you can search him up on Google. He was paralyzed for a substantial amount of time in his life with a severe disease. And then eventually he managed to recover. And within that time, he didn't necessarily take too much pity on himself because he had the support of his family. But he was analyzing body language in the meantime. And just analyzing and taking notice of the minute differences of how somebody is feeling or reacting. You know, maybe he could see like, okay, so the time when somebody is expressing something which is deep in their mind, you see, or something which has really affected them, you find that up here, you know, you can see that maybe this part of your face near your eyebrows, it goes up and yeah, it goes up and it's basically now you recalling that incident in a very emotional format or way. So I feel like, yeah, the empathy part is also part of understanding one aspect of the law of maybe human nature. Of course, I've mentioned the book, which is to do with body language, how somebody expresses their points and their behavior, what is the general mood that they feel, and it's a very critical skill, I think, in terms of emotional intelligence. Yeah.
Sure. So, for me, actually, my point was on that we've really dealt so much on suicide and the concept around suicide, but now most of our viewers or our listeners, maybe they don't want to hear more about suicide. They want to hear more about... Yes.
That's where I wanted to go next.
Thank you.
Yes. Stay with the mic. Thank you. So, what are some of the preventive measures that we can adapt, when it comes to suicide? Because the topic today was suicide awareness and preventive measures. So, yes.
But I'm thinking also, before we go into the preventive, can we deal with the factors? What are these things that lead to suicide?
Mm-hmm. I feel like we've not mentioned them. We've mentioned a few, but we can add to them.
Oh, okay.
They can never be. Yes.
Maybe I'll touch on the ones which I like. I was going to mention the ones which the general factors of the environment as a whole. So on the environmental factors that you're looking at, so there's of course the social, political, and economic. So I wanted to touch a bit on the economic factors and maybe just point at different things which have transpired since the early days of COVID up till this point. So COVID, of course, we all sat at home. I'm pretty sure we did not know what we were going to do. A lot of people lost their jobs. Some people were not able to go back to school, not see their friends. And the way our life was affected in a very drastic way. Which is why at that point in time we had a lot of mental health awareness and campaigns ongoing during that time to try and help people deal with that. I would say it was a monumental shift in the way we used to go about life. And also, some of the background factors are like, the Federal Reserve printed around either 30 or more than 40% of dollars which were in the circulation, right? So it caused a whole inflation of different economic assets and whatnot. Now, the ripple effect is commodities, maybe stocks, and different things that we take for granted were inflated. And as that price inflates, it means that it's inflating in a way where demand is not able to meet the supply. Fast forward a couple of years, we see that the Feds have increased the interest rates. Why? Because the cost of living was shooting up. Coupled with the Russia-Ukraine situation, if people don't know, Russia and Ukraine produce a substantial amount of the goods and services that are supplied to the global markets, from maize, wheat, the fertilizer here in Kenya, the CAN that we used to buy. Now you're buying like for 1,000 or 2,000 before you're buying.
Technically, we've gotten to, when you talk about economic, you're saying high cost of living.
Yes. Now, a high cost of living is a strain. It's an economic strain, because if your wages have not gone above inflation rate or are above the inflation rate so that you can live comfortably, it becomes a bit tricky. Let's say you get into an accident, hospital bills are expensive. Let's say you, for whatever circumstances that you're facing, it's more expensive than it is. Fueling your car, you go, let's say you're fueling maybe 1,000 can give you quarter tank, 1,000 only give you like a small portion right now. So you feel the pinch, and it really affects you, especially if you're not on the upper echelon of society.
And then now we go back to one of the main causes of suicide that I mentioned, which is feeling like a burden. Because if high cost of living in Kokoju and you can't afford certain things, it means you'll have to now to run to people to help you out and everything. And at the end, if the response that you're getting from them is not positive, then you start feeling like a burden, like unawasumbua and whatnot. And then now that's when you start having those suicidal ideations. I agree with you. That is one of the, contributing factors to it. I don't know if you have any that you would want to mention.
So just before, there's something else I just wanted to mention. I think, especially maybe on the, so one of those economic factors is, of course, the dollar to the shilling. And then, debt to GDP, those things that I think we're aware of. I don't want to bring in too much of it, but these are hard times. For most people, you just have to tighten your belts. And the simple yet very straining answer is to simplify life. Because that's within your control. We do not control the circumstances beyond where we currently are. There are some things which, we don't control. Russia, Ukraine, we don't control politics, we do not control what the Federal Reserve will do and how that affects us, or what China will do and how that affects us. So there's a very important prayer which is, it's basically known, especially maybe in AA, and it states, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. It's very important to see those wise words as something which people need to understand and internalize that.
Thank you.
Well, that was really powerful. Being contented with whatever you have, it's a good way of dealing with some of these social issues. Very true. Now, one way that we can be able to prevent
Before you go
suicide.
to preventing, is there any other contributing factor that maybe we haven't discussed or we haven't mentioned? And I see unatingisha kichwa kidogo wangu. Yes?
There's one that we forget to mention. There are these critical diseases that are shunned by society. For example, HIV and AIDS, the STDs. And the moment you get them, yeah, you're just like, okay, now am I leaving? Let me just die once and for all. And you also get, when you get diseases like cancer, you know the medication is very expensive. You look at your background, you're trying to raise from other people and maybe it's not getting there and you're like, instead of making my family go broke, why don't I just kill myself once and for all, because after all I'll die. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very true. The physical illness. It's true. Good point. The other factors include, there are things to do with relationships. And when we are talking about the youth, this is one of the most prevalent contributing factors on matters suicide and depression all there. There are, of course, issues to do with economics, the financial status and what have you. The things to do with having unresolved or untreated mental illnesses. If you are living with another mental illness, maybe depression, schizo, for those who know schizophrenia, you're living with maybe bipolar mood disorder, you're living with many other mental illnesses. If they are not treated, this can contribute towards suicide. And according to the report by the National Task Force, it says that suicides in Kenya, 60% of all suicides are as a result of two mental illnesses. That is majorly depression and schizophrenia. And for our viewers and our listeners who are thinking of what is this schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is not an animal. Schizophrenia is a mental illness that most of us in the streets refer to as mad people. Yeah. So that is in basic and layman's way of putting about, but there is more to schizophrenia that I wouldn't want to go deeper in this session. So if you have that underlying issues, mental issues, and you've not sought treatment, you've not sought help, that can also be a contributing factor towards suicide. And it is also alarming, again, when you talk about young people, based on the same report, like suicide is number 2 cause of death for the ages of 15 to 19. This is really alarming. When you say globally, like 1.4% of all deaths, you can imagine, is because of suicides. This is something that we need to do. We need to create awareness, and that's why I'm very happy to be here for these conversations, so that we can create awareness. Yes, so I think
we've covered majority of the contributing factors. So now we can get to preventive measures, right?
Now on the I'll beg to go first.
Yes.
How do you prevent the prevention measures in suicide? One is what we are doing today, creating awareness on suicide. There are those people up to now, they don't believe that there is suicide. They still hold on to the myths, the misconceptions that we've been talking about. So we need to raise the awareness and tell them that, suicide is a result of many other factors. It's as a result of, people going through mental issues, people going through many other issues on the side. And then they will end up, taking away their lives. But it's not that, to the point that they are taking away their lives, not that they wished. It's something that is out of their control, right? So we need to create that awareness. We need to create awareness on areas or facilities that if you feel like you are overwhelmed, you can go and seek help. Yes, now talking of facilities, one way of preventing is that it is good for you to identify these signs in the early stages that you were talking about, the stages of suicide, while you're still in ideation, right? Those early stages, and seek help. Do not wait for it to progress into something else. So it is, but you can also identify if you have the information, and that's why we are here to just discuss as colleagues and what have you. The other thing on prevention is that we need to be there to offer the support to our colleagues, to our friends, family members. Be that support pillar to someone. If you feel that if you observe something funny or something, I'm avoiding to use the word abnormal because of some controversy and some debate somewhere. But if you observe something unusual about me, you need to come and just have a talk with me. Ask, of late I've seen you're doing your things in a different way than those ways I'm used to. Is there a reason? Just being that support and and you can only be a support if you are a safe space. I can only come to you and share my stories if I know that you are going to understand, or you are going to be receptive to my problems, and you're not going to share them out. Yes. So I think from my side that is it. Maybe I'll finish with we also need to share these suicide prevention hotlines. And right now they are all over. We have organizations that are doing great in terms of offering interventions when it comes to suicidal clients. And we have organizations like Befrienders, the Kenya Red Cross, with the toll-free line 1199. You can call it anytime. These are services that are there in case that you need someone to help you, someone to listen to you, so that we save that life, because that life is more important than anything else.
Thank you. Do you have something to add? Under preventive measures.
Under preventive measures, I would say I think trying to build a much more sustainable and healthier life environment, nurturing the right kind of relationships, and of course what has been mentioned here. I think it's been covered. Okay. Yeah.
Nora?
Oh, okay. A lot has been said, but I would say, okay, first of all, I feel like these professionals who have experience in these fields need to identify that certain society that still feels like these conversations are an abomination, and educate them and teach them to normalize this conversation. And then secondly, I feel like people should learn to embrace diversity. Yeah, you accept one another from everywhere we come from.
True.
People should have this yearn to know more about everything. It helps you grow mentally, and it helps you identify different ways to deal with different situations. Yeah.
So for me, I'll add a few preventive measures. One of them is self-care. I feel like it's very important for you to take care of yourself. I know when you talk about self-care, most people think I need to take myself to Maldives, I need to do this huge. Self-care can be as simple as just giving yourself a positive affirmation. You get giving yourself that, you got this, and something just small, taking care of your physical hygiene, taking care of your mental well-being, being self-aware. And I'll keep on insisting on self-awareness because it's very paramount when it comes to mental health. Another thing that I feel like would be a huge preventive measure on a personal level is gratitude, because I feel most of the time, especially us the youths, we like comparing ourselves to the next person who've made it big, and then we have this thing of we want to make it and make it now. So if you've not yet made it now, we start feeling like there's something wrong with us and everything. So what gratitude does is it brings you back to reality. It reminds you that there's something that's actually working for you. And I normally have two different ways of doing gratitude. You can do it on a daily basis, whereby you be grateful for three different things, three good things that happened to you that day, or you can do it the harder way. I normally call it 26-13-5, whereby in 5 days you do 26 gratitudes, 13 hard, 13 easy. 13 easy is like, I'm grateful I woke up in the morning, I'm grateful I had breakfast, I'm grateful, just easy things, sikupata traffic, and so on. Hard things are 13 hard things for you to be grateful for. Something that you can't see the goodness in it, but you look inside it and try and find whatever goodness is in that. Easy. Nimeibua simu tao. Instead of, of course, nitasikia vibaya, but I can be grateful because this gives me another opportunity to buy a new phone. You get? So always don't see the negative in things, try and see the light in whatever things that. So I feel like if we started that on a personal point, then add that to now the societal, preventive measures that you've mentioned, the community, what the community that needs to do and everything. And I feel like we'll be on the right path when it comes to, preventive measures. I don't know if you asked for the mic.
So yeah, just I think one more thing to add. I think for the entire environment of mental health and the ecosystem itself, I think it's for I think organizations out there, keep doing your work. I think we need more organizations, we need more mental health infrastructure and architecture to be built everywhere, countrywide, and more campaigns like this to be had. I think we've sort of dealt with those preventive measures that the individuals can take, and I think as a society we just need to have more awareness, and I think a more open attitude. That would be the right thing. And then of course once we, the more mental health institutions that we have in Kenya, I think it would be a step in the right direction for preventative measures as a whole.
I like that. And I feel like when you talk about having more mental health institutions and, facilities and whatnot, I feel like we need to also factor in the fact that these things need to be accessible. Because what's the need of us having, 100 institutions and yet they are way too expensive that the kawaida mwananchi cannot access them. So accessibility is very important. And mentioning that, I also want to remind the population that Kenyatta offers free counseling services to youths under the age of 25. Mathari offers for 500 bob, which is, I feel like it's the cheapest out there. We have toll-free numbers you can call in case you feel like you're stressed and whatnot. So what I'm trying to say is usikufe na stress. There are facilities outside there who are looking to help and which are actually accessible to you. When you talk about mental health care, we feel like it's way too expensive. You feel like spending 5,000 bob for a session is too much kwenda tu kuongelesha mse. But then again kuna hiyo ya 5 so use whatever is available to you and seek the help that you need.
Also, it can be expensive to attend this, but then there are these meditative exercises that help you relax. So we should also learn to take care of the environment so that it can take care of us. We can go, like, you see this place, it is very serene, you could just come here and breathe in and out and relax. Yeah, so we should also care for the environment so that when we need it in times of, you want to get that release, you can go to different places, maybe hikes, camps, and you let it all out.
Yeah, so mentioning that, shout out to Garden World Karen for, this amazing view and venue you've given us. So you had something to say?
Actually, for me, it was a bit of just clarification. You mentioned of Kenyatta, and I was like, there are many Kenyattas out here.
Oh. Kenyatta National Hospital, KNH. Yes, Kenyatta National Hospital offers free counseling. You can walk in if you're a youth under the age of 25. So nyinyi wazee, so mwanze kwenda Mathari ni cheaper. It's 500 bob. So in the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is use these institutions, use these things that are accessible to you. Usishikwe na stress alafu uende kwa beshte yako, kama unajua beshte yako atakuuliza guys, so utadu. Get help that is going to help you. Seek consult or help from people who can actually help you. Parting shot, I always say this, and I'll always say it. Be kind with your words. If you can't say something kind, then don't say anything at all. So learn to be kind with your words, because you never know, whatever nice thing you say, that may just be the thing that someone was waiting to hold on to. So if you feel like you don't have anything nice to say, just keep it to yourself. So other than that, I really want to thank the youth leaders for gracing us with your time. So asanteni sana. I don't know if there's someone.
Yeah, we are not giving our parting shots.
Parting shot, your parting.
Okay, my parting shot. Whatever you said, be kind with your words. That is a scout law number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, my parting shot is that you are a very beautiful person. You are God's temple. Yes, you. You are it doesn't matter what society says about you. You are amazing. And there is nothing that is difficult that you can't do in this world. If you have problems, there are different books. He mentioned one of them. Learn to read. You could listen to podcasts that help you boost your self-esteem. You could I listen to Sadhguru. Yeah, there is a lot of wisdom that comes with such. Take in the positivity. Okay, come up with habits that help you nurture yourself and grow. And trust me, you will never ever. And also learn to surround yourself with just positive vibes. When you see somebody and that person is negative vibes, just take care of yourself and love yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mine is just say that there has never been, there will never be, and there is no health without mental health.
Please say that louder for the people at the back. Rudia to your part ya mwisho.
Yes. There is no health without mental health. In all aspects. You can't be healthy without your mental health being in check.
Okay. Wow. So I think my parting shot is just I think you touched on it. When things are rough, leaning to your good friends, always seek help. Human beings were not individualistic creatures. We are social animals. The foremost social animal on planet Earth. So seek help. Always seek help. And just always know that there is a solution. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you very much. So that was it for us. I hope you guys, you've learned something in regards to, suicide preventive measures. I hope we've created the awareness that we had intended to do. In case you have questions that, you had and you feel like were not answered, you can always, text us, reach us out. We'll share our social media handles. I'll make sure to share everyone's social media handle here so that you can reach them, personally. So that was those for you. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye.